Boss fired me by text on a Saturday morning, calling me replaceable trash. I showed up Monday with a court order. He went pale when he saw the lawsuit on his desk. I was halfway through my first cup of coffee when my phone buzzed. It was early, too damn early for a Saturday. My wife, Sandra, was still asleep upstairs, and the house was quiet except for the faint hum of the fridge. I had been scrolling through the news, trying to decide if I was motivated enough to clean the garage today. Spoiler alert, I wasn't. When I glanced at my phone, my stomach immediately tightened. It was a text from my boss, Daryl Whitman. Daryl, effective immediately, we're terminating your employment. Don't bother coming in on Monday. You're replaceable trash. HR will be in touch about your severance, if we decide to give you one. I blinked. Then I read it again. And again, my heart started pounding. What the HLL? I'd worked at Crawford and More Logistics for 12 years. I wasn't some intern or temp worker. I was a senior account manager. I handled the company's biggest clients. I had trained half the damn department. And he had the nerve to fire me over a text message, calling me replaceable trash? I set my coffee down with a shaking hand. Sandra's voice came from the stairs. Hey, what are you doing up so early? She walked into the kitchen, tying her robe around her waist, her eyes still full of sleep. The second she saw my face, her expression changed. What's wrong? I turned my phone around so she could see the text. She leaned in, read it, then immediately straightened up, her face darkening. What the actual HLL? My thoughts exactly. She took the phone from me, reading it again as if she expected the words to change. He can't do this, right? He can't just fire you over text. And calling you. She clenched her jaw. Replaceable trash? I ran a hand through my hair, my mind racing. Oh, it's not just unprofessional. It's illegal. Her head snapped up. What do you mean? I mean, my contract guarantees me either a 60-day notice or a severance package worth 3 months' salary. He's just ignored both. I exhaled, trying to keep my voice steady. He thinks I'm just going to roll over and take it. Sandra scoffed. Does he not know you at all? A slow, cold smile spread across my face. Apparently not. By the time I finished my coffee, I already had a plan. I spent the rest of the day doing research. I dug through my emails, saved copies of every performance review I had ever received, all positive, by the way, and pulled up my original employment contract. Then, I made a call. Max Goldberg, employment lawyer, old friend, ruthless as HLL. When I told him what happened, he actually laughed. Oh, this guy's an idiot, Max said. He put that in writing? Over text? Jesus, you want to go after him? You already know the answer. Good. I'll draft a lawsuit tonight. We'll hit them with wrongful termination, breach of contract, and defamation. You'll be getting more than just severance, my friend. Perfect. By Sunday night, the paperwork was ready. By Monday morning, I was ready for war. I walked into the office at 8:55 a.m., wearing my usual work attire, carrying a thick envelope in my hand. The receptionist, Kim, nearly spilled her coffee when she saw me. I know, I said calmly. Daryl fired me. She gave me a helpless look. He told us you wouldn't be coming in. I smirked. Well, plans changed. I walked straight to Daryl's office. No knocking. No waiting. I just opened the door and stepped inside. Daryl was laughing about something with Todd and a few other managers. Probably talking about his weekend golf trip or some other pointless nonsense. The second he saw me, his face turned ghostly pale. What the HLL are you doing here? He snapped. I smiled and tossed the envelope onto his desk. Read it. He frowned but grabbed the envelope. As he flipped through the pages, his hands visibly shook. What? He swallowed. What the HLL is this? A lawsuit, Daryl. I leaned in, lowering my voice so only he could hear. You fired me illegally. That's a formal complaint for wrongful termination, defamation, and breach of contract. Todd, who had been sipping his coffee, choked. Holy shit. Daryl looked back at the papers. This is ridiculous. His voice wavered. You can't be serious. Oh, I'm very serious. I crossed my arms. And so is my lawyer. His forehead was slick with sweat now. Oh, let's be reasonable. Maybe we can talk about this. I chuckled. Oh, now you want to talk? I tilted my head. Funny, because when you sent that text, you seemed pretty damn sure I was replaceable trash. Daryl opened his mouth, then closed it. He looked around the room, as if hoping someone would jump in to save him. No one did. He turned back to me. Look, I'll see you in court, I said. Then I turned and walked out, leaving him sitting there, pale and speechless. And that was just the beginning. I stepped out of Daryl's office feeling the weight of months, no years, of frustration lifting off my shoulders. The bastard had underestimated me. He thought I'd just disappear quietly. Instead, he was now staring at a lawsuit that could cost him his job, his reputation, and HLL of a lot of money. As I walked through the office, I could feel the eyes on me. A few of my former coworkers tried to look busy, but I could see them whispering, stealing glances. Some of them probably felt bad for me. Others were just glad it wasn't them. Kim, the receptionist, bit her lip as I passed her desk. What? What did you do? She whispered. I just smiled. Made things interesting. I pushed open the glass doors and walked out into the crisp morning air, breathing deep. This was only the first step. It didn't take long for the news to spread. Around lunchtime, my phone started buzzing with messages from former coworkers. Mike from accounting, dude. Daryl looks like he's seen a ghost. What the HLL did you do? Lisa from HR. Are you actually suing the company? I overheard Todd talking about it in the break room. Brent, my old cubicle neighbor. Bro, HR just pulled Daryl into a meeting. People are freaking out. You're a legend. I smirked at my phone. Good. Let them panic. But then, another message came in. Max, Daryl's lawyer just called me. They want to discuss options. Looks like they're scared. Want to meet? Scared, huh? I grabbed my keys. On my way. Max's office was a small, well-furnished space in a downtown building. When I arrived, he was already sitting at his desk, flipping through a folder. He didn't even look up as he said, "They sent an offer." I sat down. That was fast. He slid the paper across the desk. Take a look. I picked it up and started reading. It was insulting. 1 month severance. That's it. I let out a short laugh and tossed the paper back onto his desk. They can't be serious. Oh, they are, Max said, smirking. And they're hoping you're desperate enough to take it. I shook my head. They owe me at least 3 months severance. And that's before we even get to the wrongful termination and defamation charges. Exactly. He leaned back, lacing his fingers behind his head. So, how do you want to play this? I grinned. We're going to make them sweat. Max sent a response rejecting the offer, doubling down on the lawsuit, and demanding a proper settlement. The next day, things got even worse for Daryl. Apparently, HR had started digging through his emails. There were rumors, whispers about other questionable firings, missing funds, and a potential audit. Then, a bombshell. Lisa from HR texted me late that night. Lisa, not sure if you've heard, but you might have started something bigger than you realized. Me, how so? Lisa, Daryl's under investigation now. People are talking. You weren't the only one he screwed over. I sat up in bed, reading the message twice. Then another one came in. Lisa, and I just found out something huge. Call me tomorrow. You're going to want to hear this. I stared at the screen, heart pounding. Whatever she had found, it was going to change everything. I barely slept that night. Lisa's message replayed in my head over and over. Daryl's under investigation now. You weren't the only one he screwed over. I just found out something huge. What the HLL did she mean? By morning, I was pacing my living room, phone in hand. I didn't even wait for 9 a.m. I called Lisa the moment I saw her status turn online. She picked up after 2 rings. I was about to call you. Well, I beat you to it. What the HLL is going on? Lisa sighed, lowering her voice. Okay, so first, you should know that HR has been sitting on a mountain of complaints against Daryl for years. They just never acted on them because upper management looked the other way. I clenched my jaw. Figures. But here's the thing. She hesitated. Last year, he fired a guy from the warehouse, Michael. I frowned. Michael? You mean Michael O'Reilly? Yeah. The one who got injured on the job. I finished for her, my pulse spiking. Lisa sighed. Yep. Turns out, he was fired right after filing a workers' comp claim. HR buried the paperwork. I swore under my breath. That's illegal as HLL. Exactly. Lisa hesitated again. But that's not even the biggest thing. I gripped the phone tighter. Lisa, just say it. She took a deep breath. Daryl's been skimming money from company budgets for years. Fake expenses, padded invoices, God knows what else. I just found an email chain that hints at something big. If we dig deeper. She didn't even need to finish. I already knew where this was going. Daryl wasn't just a bad boss. He was a crook. And I had just given HR a reason to investigate him. I exhaled slowly. Lisa, you're telling me Daryl isn't just a petty shoal. He's also committing financial fraud. She let out a humorless laugh. Bingo. Does anyone else know? Just a few people in HR, but they're scared. If you hadn't filed your lawsuit, this might have stayed buried. But now, she trailed off. I could practically feel the pressure building on the other end of the line. Then Lisa's voice turned serious. Listen, I'm sending you copies of everything I found. If this goes public, it could blow up the entire company. My mind was already racing with possibilities. Lisa, you could get in trouble for this. Yeah, well, she sighed. I'm sick of watching people like Daryl get away with this crap. And I'm not the only one. I sat down, rubbing my temples. This was bigger than I expected. Much bigger. Daryl was in deep shit. And I had just become his biggest problem. By noon, I had an email from Lisa with a file full of damning evidence. Invoices that didn't match up. Emails from vendors that didn't exist. Expenses billed under fake projects. Max called me the second he saw it. Holy HLL, man, he said, his voice a mix of amusement and disbelief. Your little wrongful termination case just turned into a goddamn corporate fraud, Sindao. You're telling me. I pinched the bridge of my nose. What do we do with this? Oh, I know exactly what we do, Max said, his tone sharp. We use it. I could practically hear his grin through the phone. They wanted to play dirty? Fine. We'll play dirtier. By Wednesday, the cracks were starting to show. I got another text from Lisa. Lisa, Daryl just had a private meeting with the higher-ups. He came out looking like he saw a damn ghost. Good. Then, an hour later, Max called me again. You're gonna love this, he said. They just sent another settlement offer. I raised an eyebrow. Let me guess, still insulting? Oh no, Max chuckled. They're panicking now. They bumped it to 6 months' salary. That was double the original severance. But I wasn't done yet. Tell them no deal, I said. Not until they fired Daryl. Max let out a low whistle. Damn, you really want to bury him, huh? He called me replaceable trash, I said coldly. I want him to feel it. Max laughed. You're a savage. I love it. Consider it done. Thursday morning, I got a call from an unknown number. I answered, half expecting it to be a scam call. Hello. A familiar voice came through the line, low and strained. Listen, we need to talk. It was Daryl. I grinned. This was about to get interesting. I stared at my phone for a second, letting the silence stretch between us. Then I grinned. Daryl, I said, my voice slow and deliberate. Didn't expect to hear from you. A pause. Then, his voice came back, lower this time. Tense. Look, he muttered. I think we've both let this situation get out of control. I leaned back on my couch, stretching my legs out. Oh, this situation? You mean the one where you illegally fired me and called me trash? Or the one where you might be facing a corporate fraud investigation? Another silence. I imagined him, sweating on the other end of the line, gripping his phone so tightly his knuckles turned white. Finally, he cleared his throat. Look, I just think maybe we can come to an understanding. Settle this quietly. No need for lawyers, no need for courts. I nearly laughed. He sounded desperate. I already have a lawyer, I reminded him. And you already had a chance to settle. Didn't like the offer. His voice sharpened. You're making this personal. Oh, it was personal the moment you decided to fire me over text like a coward. His breathing on the other end of the phone was heavy now. You don't get it, he muttered. Then help me understand. I let my voice go calm, controlled. Why are you really calling me, Daryl? Another long pause. Then, finally, he cracked. I need you to back off. There it was. I smirked. Why? Afraid of what Lisa found. The silence stretched again, longer this time. Then, suddenly, I can make it worth your while. Oh, there it was. The real reason for this call. Daryl wasn't just scared. He was scrambling. And now, he was about to try and bribe me. I let the moment breathe, savoring it. Oh, and what exactly are you offering? His voice lowered, urgent now. A personal payout. Off the record. You walk away, and I send you a nice check. No lawsuit. No HR complaints. No other investigations. I almost whistled. He really was panicking. How much? I asked, just to see what he'd say. 50 grand, he said immediately. I bit back a laugh. 50? That's adorable, Daryl. His voice snapped. It's more than you'll get after legal fees and dragging this thing out for months. I smiled, shaking my head. Daryl, you don't get it, do you? He didn't answer. I don't just want money. I kept my tone even, controlled. I want you gone. A shaky breath came through the phone. That's not happening. Then neither is this deal. I hung up. I didn't need his dirty money. I was going to bury him properly. By Friday, things had escalated fast. Lisa texted me again. Lisa, Daryl's been in closed-door meetings all day. He looks bad. Like stress vomiting in the bathroom bad. Me? Good. Lisa. Also, side note, you've become an office legend. People are talking about how you walked in with the lawsuit like a badass. I smirked. Damn right they were. But then, she sent another text. Lisa, heads up. I think he's trying to shift the blame. Word is, he's throwing other people under the bus. That made me pause. Daryl wasn't just trying to save himself. He was willing to take people down with him. I immediately called Max. Yo, he answered. Tell me you have more good news. I do. But we have a new problem. I explained what Lisa had told me. Max let out a low whistle. Daryl's turning on his own people? Damn. That's a real sign of desperation. What do we do? Well, if he's trying to shift blame, we just make sure HR has the right targets in sight, Max said. I could hear the grin in his voice. I'll make some calls. And I think it's time we leak a little something to the board. I smirked. I like the way you think. Max chuckled. Oh, you're gonna love what happens next. By Monday, the whole company was on high alert. Another text from Lisa came in. Lisa, HR just announced a full-scale internal audit. They're digging into all of Daryl's transactions. I whistled. That was the beginning of the end. Then, another text, this one from Brent, my old cubicle neighbor. Brent, bro, Daryl's office is empty. Like, cleaned out. WTF? I blinked at the screen. Did that mean what I thought it meant? Before I could even type a response, Max called me. I answered immediately. Tell me you have good news. Max laughed. Oh, buddy, I have great news. And the next words out of his mouth made me grin. Daryl was done for. The second Max said the words, I sat up straighter. You're gonna love this, he said, barely able to contain his amusement. HR just confirmed it. Daryl's been officially suspended. I grinned. Suspended. Oh yeah, and guess what else? They're bringing in forensic accountants to go through all of his transactions. I let out a slow whistle. That means they know something's bad enough that they don't want to take any chances. Max laughed. Dude, they don't just think something is bad. They know. The board got a copy of some of the files Lisa found. His whole operation is crumbling. I could picture it now. Daryl pacing his office, sweating bullets as HR and legal teams pulled apart every fake invoice, every falsified expense report, every shady transaction. And it wasn't just about corporate fraud anymore. Lisa texted me later that afternoon. Lisa, he's trying to pin everything on accounting, but in '01 is backing him up. Even Todd threw him under the bus. I shook my head, smirking. Classic. The rats were jumping ship. But I wasn't done yet. I met Max in his office the next morning. You're getting your settlement, he said as soon as I walked in. Full 12-month salary, plus damages. I raised an eyebrow. 12 months? I only asked for 6. Max smirked. Yeah, well, turns out HR really doesn't want this going to court. The fraud stuff is a big enough mess already. They want to clean this up fast. I let out a low laugh. Good. Oh, and Max added, Daryl's severance? Gone. I blinked. Wait. What? Yeah. HR was this close to paying him off quietly, but when the fraud evidence came out, they yanked the deal. No golden parachute. No cushy exit. Just a security escort out of the building. I leaned back in my chair, exhaling. Damn. He grinned. Satisfied yet? I thought about it. The money was nice. Seeing Daryl fall from grace was better, but I had one last thing to do. The next day, I took a little trip. Just for fun. I drove to the office parking lot right as Daryl was leaving the building for the last time. He looked rough. Dark circles under his eyes, sweat on his forehead, a cardboard box in his arms full of personal items. Security was walking him out. I leaned against my car, arms crossed, just watching. Daryl spotted me almost immediately. His face twisted into a scowl, but there was no power behind it anymore. Just bitterness. For a second, I thought he might try to say something. Maybe a weak attempt to save face. But then his shoulders sagged, and he just shook his head, looking away. I smiled. See you around, Daryl. He didn't reply, didn't even look back. He just climbed into his car, gripping the wheel so hard his knuckles turned white. Then he drove off. Gone. A week later, I got my settlement check, a fat deposit that gave me more time and freedom than I'd had in years. Lisa quit the company right after Daryl left, landing an even better job elsewhere. And me? I took 6 months off, traveled a bit, spent more time with Sandra, and finally, cleaned out the damn garage. Eventually, I found another job, one where my boss actually respected me. But honestly, the money, the job, none of that was the real victory. The real victory was knowing that Daryl had to live with what he'd done. No cushy exit. No easy way out. Just a long, hard fall. And the knowledge that he did it to himself. And that was the best revenge of all.